vote. All right, our old business is accepting or rejecting the conditional use at 1509 South Louise Street. We're gonna go ahead and open it up for our board to discuss this. I know we had some questions, that's why we didn't finish last month, so.
I thought we voted on it.
We have not voted on it.
And there was one person that voted for it, and the rest of us voted against. I thought. No? Okay.
I know when we ended our last meeting, we were talking about if it was accepted, if there would be conditions placed on it. So, I do know that we have a few people in the, audience tonight that's talked to some of our board meeting members, so if you guys would like to talk about what they've brought up to you guys, that can be part of it, but like I said, we don't have a public meeting tonight.
May I speak?
Absolutely.
What I did was just go around the neighborhood to people that I've known, had for neighbors many years. And in the subdivision that's above this location and in the area below the location, I didn't find anybody that was in favor of it. And I found two residents that kind of made a statement that they thought, after they had invested many years of their life in getting the house that they wanted in the place that they wanted, that they just didn't want it to be there. So I told them not to speak on their behalf. I also don't want it to be there.
Is it just because of the noise that you don't want it there?
It's a residential neighborhood, Catherine. It has been forever.
That's not my question. My question is it just because of the noise that you don't want it there?
I think I correctly answered your question when I said it's because it's been a residential neighborhood for many, many years. No one is looking to have a commercial business in the neighborhood. Matter of fact, my closest neighbor commented that he didn't understand why, if this was a viable business, why wouldn't you rent a commercial property like everybody else does? So that was his comment. But no, it's not just because of noise. It's because we don't need a commercial business in our neighborhood. We live there. I don't want it.
Are we allowed to ask Mike some questions? Is that allowable or not?
I think if we don't know the answers to it, I think so. He's here tonight, so.
I would just have several questions as to whether the site is truly viable. I'm not saying I'm, at this point, whether I'm for or against it, but I just, Mike, well, to start off with, has your site ever had, your current site that you propose ever had a city license?
No.
Okay. And when operating without the city license, did your customers bring their bikes to your shop, or did you go get them, or how did they arrive at your
They
shop?
brought them to me.
Okay. And do you live next to your shop or garage?
I live right around the corner from it.
Okay. Do you have a bathroom in your shop?
No.
Okay. So that, if it was approved, I'm just saying that from the research I've done, the 2012 IBC code, or International Building Code, that Salem has adopted would require you to build an ADA compliant bathroom. Is that something you'd be able to do?
Sure.
So currently, okay, currently, where would customers go to the bathroom if they were visiting your shop?
I make appointments with them, they drop it off and they come back and get it. I've never had any customer stay.
Okay, what do you do with the wastewater and cleaning fluids?
There is no wastewater and cleaning fluids, cause I use a waterless wash when I do detailing. So there's no wastewater or nothing, it's wrapped up, it's in rags, and it gets wiped on and wiped off, and then the rags get washed at my house.
Okay, how many bikes would you say stored inside or outside your business at one time?
I've had 4 bikes in my business at once.
And are they all registered bikes, or do you have some non-registered bikes?
What do you mean? Registered with the state,
Yes.
like as tagged?
License tag,
Yes.
whatever, yeah,
They've all been registered, yes.
okay. Do you do any work on the bikes besides detailing?
No, I did do work on detail, or besides detailing, but I went ahead and compromised with, because the alderman told me they was concerned about tires disposal and, you know, oil disposal. So I figured, well, I'll just keep it detail. I make enough money doing that, so I'll just keep it detail, and I'll do the oil and, the tires would be my own, for my own private use.
Okay. So when you're detailing with replacing things like hand grips, mirrors, handlebars, fenders, would that be part of detailing?
No, detailing is strictly polishing, washing, polishing the bike, getting it to where it's looking brand new again, or close to it.
Okay. What are your business hours for your customers?
So my business hours are 9 to 5,
Okay. And what are your working hours?
9 to 5.
5 days a week or 7 days a
Yeah,
week?
5 days a week. If I'm there over, I'm closed for business at 5. If I'm there over, I'm in there doing business, cause I run my ministry out of my same building. I'm doing something there, maybe on the computer or something like that, but.
So speaking of your ministry, does your shop serve as a gathering point for your Christian motorcycle group? I'm not sure what the name is, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's Bikers for Christ.
Okay.
We're a worldwide organization, and yes, it serves as a meeting. We meet up there sometimes. Sometimes we'll do meetings there. Sometimes we'll make that a point of meeting to where if we take off if we go on like rides or somewhere, or if we're gonna meet up with, the local CMA chapters here to go on rides or some benefits or memorial rides or Toys for Tots, stuff like that, we'll meet up there, and then we'll meet them over at, Mobile.
And so how many bikers and or bikes would be per ride or gathering?
We've had up to 7 bikes at once.
Okay? And do you have any fence or visual screen around your garage shop to screen from your neighbors?
No.
That's all the questions I have.
Is there other questions and comments? Sherman, did you have, any comments from neighbors too?
I have not,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, when people leave bikes there, they are kept inside the building. They're not kept outside where everybody can see them. I mean, if during the day, if someone comes by, you know, there's a bike outside, maybe a couple bikes outside, but that's it. And, you know, there's not a lot of noise during, night hours. There's, during the day, if there's a bike come up, but there's people over in the subdivision he was talking about, there's people over there that own bikes. In the lower subdivision, there's people there that own bikes, cause I've worked on them. So everybody around there own bikes. And I'll tell you how this came to pass. Jared, first of all, I'd like to apologize. Last time I was here in the meeting, I said you didn't have a complaint, but you did have a complaint. I know who the complaint was too. It was Tammy that works at the city building. She sent you down there, and I know exactly why she did, cause she said this herself. She looked on Facebook and found me on Facebook and said, hey, he don't have a license, cause I would've known, cause I would've gave it to him. So that's why Jared came by. So then that's when I started going up there and trying to get a license, cause I wanted to, make everything right and get everything, cause I didn't think that, a guy working out of his garage would be that big of a deal, but apparently it is. But anyways, to get up to code and get up to everything else, that's when I called Tammy and talked to her. And that's when she told me there was no complaints. There was no complaints with the police department. And she told me, she said, look, Because at first she told me there was people complaining, and I said, so I went up there, I talked to her and I talked to you. And when I went up there, she finally said, look, there was nobody complaining. What it was I found you on Facebook, and so we'll go ahead and get that out in the open, how it really happened.
That was discussed. I did have a complaint in this room, probably 2 weeks before, week, 10 days before you and I talked. But it was about this time of night, and I didn't think about it the next day. Completely slipped my mind until it was brought up again.
A noise complaint?
No, complaint about the business operating.
Just a business operating without a license or something like that, yeah. So there was no noise complaint. If there's any noise complaints now, it's probably Mr. LaBrash that would want to make sure that there's noise now. And as far as Mr. LaBrash and Mr. Burtz here, I think they should recuse themselves to this panel, and let me tell you why. Mr. LaBrash, you done said you'd vote no on it. You have some kind of animosity toward me, I don't know why. Mr. Burtz, you accused me of being a junkie coming out of your dentist's office once, so I don't think that would be a fair vote either.
I don't
So,
remember that,
like to put that on record.
and I
Alright.
deny that.
We're gonna go ahead and get back. Is there any other questions from our group? Is there
I
any other comments?
May have misunderstood the purpose of this meeting. I believe that the purpose of this meeting was to establish conditions for Mr. Florence's business, rather than to decide whether he would operate a business or not. Am I mistaken?
Correct. So it was not approved in the meeting to accept or reject. So it was if we did accept, if there would, and what those conditions would be, but there was no acceptance in our last meeting.
Okay, so are we here to establish conditions?
So, are we done asking questions? Cause then we need to decide if we're going to accept or reject the conditional use. If we are going to accept it, what the conditions would be.
Well, I would just point out, it's, you have two sections in your planning and zoning bill. It's section 405.060 and also section 405.125 on conditional uses. And both of them really emphasize, if you look at number 4 on 405.060, there's an emphasis in both sections. It says the proposed use, if it complies with all the conditions upon which the approval is made contingent, will not adversely affect the property in the vicinity. And I think that's probably the question. I'm sorry. I think that's probably the question that Richard has brought up, that some of the neighbors feel like that it's going to adversely affect the value of their property in the neighborhood. And I think I would personally have to concur with that. I would feel like that is a legitimate point.
Wasn't there an exception made for another shop or another detail business in a residential situation?
There was two separate, one does not, they're just two entirely different situations, in my opinion.
What were the conditions imposed on the one in the other residential situation?
Oh, hours of operation, I forget about what all it was, I haven't got it here in front of me. Signage, hours of operation, I mean, there was
Number of vehicles outside.
number of vehicles that could be outside,
Noise, music.
yeah. So,
It was in a rundown community too. It wasn't like they were moving into a valuable housing area.
the density on the previous one, the density of residential density was very sparse. I mean, essentially that block is, and you got SBU, treatment center to the south, and I mean, the use as far as residential is concerned was basically non-existent. Where this, I feel like, is pretty densely populated as far as residential is concerned.
thoughts, comments, questions? Like I said, we have not approved or rejected this conditional use, so if there's no other questions, comments, do we have a motion to either accept or reject the conditional use?
I would make the motion that we reject the conditional use and realize that we are not the final say here. That is up to, we are merely a recommendation committee. So I would make a motion that we recommend to the city council that we reject this. But ultimately, the decision is theirs to make.
Do I have a second for?
I will
Sherman?
second that.
Let's do a vote, Richard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Burks?
Yes.
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 No.
We'll put our in as a 6-1, and it will be sent over to the next board, and they will make the final decision. Is there any other questions, comments for tonight? If not, I would like to have a motion to adjourn. Second?
I'll second.
Everybody in favor?
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, now that you've adjourned, I'd like to say something. I've never seen a committee that was able to go out and look for complaints to take somebody's business away from them. If so, sir, then someone could have went out and made complaints about you having a business run out of your house. I'm gonna make sure I put this on blogs and Facebook, how you act.
You do that.
That's certainly your privilege.
Now, like I said to the last ones, you may not be voted in, but the people that put you on are.